What's good, Wagering World? It's your boy Five Star in Vegas, broadcasting live as always from beautiful Summerlin, Nevada. And here with my co-host, my guy, the only Sacramento Kings man that I know. What's good, Spread Astaire? Long time, man.
Hey, yeah, you've got a lot going on there. Congratulations are in order.
Yeah,
New addition to the family. Why don't you let everyone know because we're all so excited for you.
yeah, man. It was a beautiful thing. My first daughter. I have three sons, as you know, Spread, and they said it's nothing like a father holding his daughter for the first time, and I could tell you, man, it's quite a feeling. Ava Winter is her name. And I'm just in love with her, man. I'm really in love with her. And another thing, man, just my wife. I love her so much, man. If you guys are in a relationship, you're married, you have a child, go to the delivery room with your wife. Watch the process uh, that your wife has to go through to get your child here, and you'll have a brand new respect for women.
Yes, definitely. So, congratulations are in order. Can't wait to meet her next time I'm down your
Definitely.
way. But we have a lot to go over because, of course, with these things going on, they've missed us this week, but we are back and we're
Yep.
ready to get into it. So, we're not even going to do the past today because we have NCAA championship week and then, of
Yes.
course, packed NFL slate. So, let's start
Yes.
tonight in Las Vegas, where you're at. Utah's going to take on USC. USC was what -3 earlier, so it looks like Utah's taken a little bit of money. Of course, I believe Utah won 43-42 when these two teams met in Utah. Now they face on a neutral. How are you approaching this one?
I'm on USC, man. I was gonna give it out in the Ball and Parlay, but you guys can just get it from right here. I actually did give it out yesterday on 97 5 in Houston on the bench with Lance Zierlein and John Granada. I'm all over USC. This is Caleb Williams' revenge game. This is the one trip that they had this year. As you remember, Utah won this game in the fourth quarter up in Salt Lake City. It was a really emotional night. They had on the side of their helmets their fallen teammates, Aaron Lowe and Ty Jordan, two of the guys for the Utes that unfortunately passed over the two past seasons due to gun violence. Both of them were shot and murdered, unfortunately. So they were really, emotional about that game. And those guys played lights out. Cam Rising had one of his best games as a collegiate in that game. He accounted for 5 touchdowns, matching Caleb Williams' 5 touchdowns. He had three with his legs and two through the air, while Caleb Williams threw for 5 touchdowns. He even outpassed him. Caleb Williams had 381 yards passing, and Cam Rising had 400 plus yards passing, 415 to be exact. So it was just a great game. But I expect USC to come out really focused. They've shown throughout the season that they can win in many different manners. Um, they went to Oregon State and Corvallis, which is definitely the most greediest, toughest team in the Pac-12, and they were able to beat them in a very low-scoring game. And that game let me know that USC was the real deal because even though their defense is really a no-name defense, they were able to keep the Trojans close by really getting into a grinded out affair. They really also showed a lot of grit against Notre Dame last week. So I just think that in this matchup, you got Utah's tight ends and running backs going against USC's great wideouts, and I just really expect Jordan Addison and Jerry Rice's son to really shine this week. I expect Lincoln Riley to have a great game plan. He's been really good in these type of games throughout his career. So I just expect USC to cover this game. I think it's a really short number for a very explosive team. They've covered all of their games this year by an average of 17 points, and I expect them to be really motivated. So let's just hope Caleb Williams is painted on his fingernails. Let's win 5 star and spread some money.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, and that should be fun. Do you think it'll be a big turnout there in Vegas tonight? Is there a
Oh
lot of people
yeah,
in town for it?
I would be there. I don't really know the vibe right now of the strip because I had one friend come in for the rodeo. The national rodeo was in town, and that's something that's really big every year around this time. I had one friend come in from Wyoming that I was able to chat with briefly, and I saw him for like 5 minutes, but I've been like 24/7. We just got out the
Yeah.
hospital yesterday and things, so I haven't been really tuned in and free to go down to the strip and check things out. But I know it's ridiculous because one, Utah's crowd is right here by Las Vegas. Salt Lake City is what, 5 hour trip from here driving, so I'm sure they're deep. And LA's in Las Vegas every weekend, so that's a 3 hour trip. So it's gonna definitely be packed. I would have loved to went to the game if we didn't have my little girl.
All right. Well, anyways, more important things going on, but we can
Yep.
still win some money while you're at home with the family. Let's go to
Yep.
Saturday. Toledo will take on Ohio. That's the MAC championship. That one's going to be played in Detroit. I
Yep.
don't know as much about those teams. Obviously, I'm more familiar with the Pac-12 teams. What do we expect when Toledo takes on Ohio?
This one is going to be a really uh, strange matchup, and the reason why it's going to be strange is because now you're dealing with two backup quarterbacks in this game. We don't know. Remember, I told you earlier this year that DeQuan Finn, a Toledo quarterback, everyone's saying he's going to transfer, and ever since he got hurt early in the season, he has not looked the same. Ever since the transfer news came out, he has not looked the same. So um, I don't know if he's going to play. The line went up to 3, but his backup is a kid named Gleason. He's a freshman. He's a kind of wild horse. He's strong, tough, likes to play hard, but he doesn't make a lot of good decisions. He tends to turn the ball over. Last week, we won some money, as you remember. We had Western Michigan plus the points, and they were able to win outright against Toledo. But they'll be facing Ohio, which is really the hottest team in the MAC right now. But they lost their starting quarterback a couple of weeks ago, and Curtis Rourke, who's has a chance to become a pro, if not in the NFL, for sure to follow his brother's footsteps and star in the Canadian Football League. They're from Canada. He's a kid from Ottawa. Big kid, 6'5", strong, can throw, do everything, but he's out. So they're going to be rolling with their backup too. He's a all right quarterback. He has some wheels. He can run. He's not as consistent in the passing game, but he's from Detroit actually, and DeQuan Finn is from Detroit too. So a lot of people are saying he's going to play in this game. The game's at Ford Field, so it'll be inside, um, which means that it's no conditions involved. Toledo has the more balanced team, but I don't like how Toledo has been playing lately. I don't like the way they responded to their coach. So with it going to 3, I have to try Ohio plus 3 in this game. I like Ohio's coach and their defense is getting a lot better, and I just don't like the way Toledo ended the year. It's some disconnections going on in that locker room from something. I don't know what's going on, but they don't look like the team that they've been all year.
All right. Yeah, definitely a lot going on in that game. A lot of moving parts. Fresno State will travel to Boise State. So that was not on a neutral in the Mountain West. They just say, hey, screw it.
No,
We'll just, whoever's better gets to
I
host it.
hate
So
that.
Boise State,
Yeah, I hate
yeah,
that.
it's a home game for them, right?
Yeah.
Minus 3.5. Obviously, Fresno State's a little closer to me. Know some people down there. I'll be rooting for them, but are they a sharp bet here? Basically playing a road game for the championship.
They are a short bet, and the reason why is it is true that Boise State has had a lot of success against Fresno. They've won actually the last 4 out of 5 against them last year. Actually the last 2 haven't been close at all. But the difference is the quarterback. Taylor Green, who's the new quarterback for Boise State, tall, athletic guy, kind of reminds you of young Randall Cunningham, real long, and he can throw the deep ball really well, but he struggles in intermediate passing. I think that Fresno State's defense and their coaching staff will be able to put something together to prevent the big plays and kind of play a little shell coverage and make him where he has to throw it underneath and not steal so many points. I'm a big Jake Hayner fan. I love the way the State quarterback operates from the pocket. He's a leader, a little bit undersized, but tough as nails. Um, they've been playing really well since he came back. Last week they beat Wyoming 30-0, which is not an easy task because, as you know, Wyoming is one of the better coach teams in college football. So with that hook, I got to take them. Um, One of our baddest beats of the year was Utah State plus 17 at Boise State. I don't know if you saw the ending of that game. They were driving to win the game, ended up throwing the interception, and ended up blowing the cover by giving up a pick six at the end of the game, but it was one of the worst bad beats in the history. But they didn't look too good in the second half against Utah State. So I like Fresno State with the 3.5. The hook especially makes it pretty much candy for me. So I'm going Fresno State plus 3.5 on this one.
All right, let's see if they can get it done on the road. Big 12 championship, Kansas State versus TCU. TCU still undefeated, still alive for the Final Four. And boy, we don't have time to talk about it today, but we'll do it more during the offseason. Did you see they're moving it to 12?
Yeah,
Is that a
yeah, I
true?
look
Yeah,
forward to that.
yeah. I
Yeah, I
think
look
that's
forward
good
to that.
too. But right
Yeah, it's
now
going to be
it's only
really good.
top four, so TCU's fighting to stay in there. They're laying 2.5, but obviously they need to make a statement. What do you think when they take on Kansas State?
I'm actually going to give this one out on the Ball and Parlay, so we'll talk about it. Hey, guys, shout out to Spread, man. Spread's toughing it out for us today, man. He's under the weather. He's been under the weather a couple of weeks, man. So, hey, I appreciate you coming on today, Spread. I know I got a lot going on, but I know you do as well, and we know how it is with health, especially guys like us who are health fanatics, man. It's really tough when you're sick, so we really appreciate you coming on today, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Feeling a little
Yeah,
better today, though. Last 3 days
yeah,
were kind of rough, but I'm feeling the light at the end of the tunnel. And then, of course, winning all these bets this weekend is going to help me
yeah,
feel even better.
yeah,
UCF, they're going to take on Tulane. That's the American
yes.
Athletic Conference. Another couple teams, hey, these Southern teams, I don't know them as well. What do you expect when UCF takes on Tulane?
This is a revenge spot similar to USC we have here with Tulane. Tulane usually doesn't have a strong home field advantage, and they are home for this game. But once again, it boils down to a couple factors and angles that I like for Tulane here. One, as I said, the revenge factor with them losing early in the year. They really were dominated, and I took Tulane that game. But since that loss, Tulane has looked really good. They've been balling, man. They had a big victory at Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati had their backup quarterback in, but he's not bad at all. He's a pretty good quarterback, and they looked really good defeating Cincinnati last week. Um, it's supposed to be a wet game, so it's going to be a little rain. I don't like where UCF is going. They struggled to defeat South Florida last week. Then the week previous to that, they lost to Navy. Ever since they beat Tulane, I don't know if they were feeling themselves a little too much, but they've declined. They have a quarterback. They play two. They play Mike King's the better passer, but Plumlee is usually the starter, the ex Ole Miss quarterback. He's more of an athlete, more of a runner than a passer. And I just think that Tulane is just going to be able to slow them down enough. Willie Fritz runs a program over there where they play a really balanced, almost pro style team where they, do a lot of running the ball, defense, play action. Really smart team. I think that they respond. They're at home. This is their first time having a chance to go to a New Year's Bowl with that program. And as you know, Tulane has been a bottom program in Louisiana for a lot of years. So this is really impressive what they're doing. I actually like Tulane minus 3.5 in this one. I think that they can win this game by a touchdown.
Tulane can win big there, huh? Laying 3.5, but
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, laying the 3.5 is the right way to go. Let's talk
Yep.
about your team, LSU,
Yeah.
catching 18.5. 18 and a
Yeah.
half. The game will be played in Atlanta, but we talked about the travel. Should be an even crowd there, right? It won't just be
Yeah.
all Georgia fans there.
Definitely.
LSU travels well. 18 and a half is a lot of points. Georgia, excuse me, unlike TCU, they don't really need, right, to win by 40,
No.
right? They just need the win. That's all that really matters. They're ranked number one. They have yet to lose all year, so they just need the win. 18 and a half seems like a lot. What do you think?
It's too many points. There's no way I could take a L with this one and I'll still be smiling because there's no way I'm getting giving up 18 and a half points against a team as talented as LSU is. We also have the angle with LSU being upset last week at A&M. They did not look good. A&M ran the ball all over them. With that said, LSU is 4-0 against the spread in the last four games after allowing more than 200 rushing yards to the previous opponent, which means it's a proud program. They're going to play defense this week. They're not going to allow Georgia just to gash them because they were gashed last week at A&M and embarrassed. LSU has a really good quarterback. He's very savvy. Jaden Daniels, I've been big on him even when he was at Arizona State. So it was just perfect that he landed at LSU. And I really trust Brian Kelly to get these guys up for this game. We've seen this game kind of before. When I don't know if you remember when Georgia went to Notre Dame a couple years ago, and it
Mhm.
ended up being a real close battle, 20-21. I think Brian Kelly's going to have these guys motivated. He's going to have a game plan in place to keep this game close going into the fourth. As you said, Georgia doesn't have much to play for. I know they lost the SEC championship last year to Alabama, and that kind of motivated them to go ahead and win the championship. So they should be more focused this year trying to win the SEC and also go undefeated. But to be honest, Georgia has been an undefeated team, but they haven't really been impressive. You know, even though they haven't lost a game, I mean, your record is what it is, as Bill Parcells once said. So they are an undefeated team, but they have not been impressive in a lot of these victories against like Kentucky. They didn't look really good. They actually didn't look too good against Georgia Tech last week, even though they ended up winning. They did not cover. You know how I am about Stetson Bennett. He's a good college quarterback, but he's very limited because of his size. Um, he won't be able to run away from LSU defenders the way he's running away from some of these other teams. I think that the great freshman Harold Perkins, the outside linebacker for LSU, makes an impact on this game, and he's able to make Stetson Bennett be a little bit uncomfortable. And I just trust Brian Kelly. I trust Jay Daniels' competitive spirits to keep LSU in this game within 3 touchdowns. So we're definitely on LSU plus 18.5.
All right. Next up is Clemson minus 7.5, and they're taking on North Carolina. This game's in Charlotte,
Yeah,
but it's another one where both programs travel well, right? It's not like it's
right.
going to be a home game for North Carolina. A lot of points there for Clemson against a UNC team, right? UNC is known as a basketball school, but this football program is really coming along. How do you see this one?
This is going to be a very interesting game. I probably won't have a play on it. I'll probably just watch and try to jump in live and bet it. Um, Clemson lost for the first time in 40 games at home last week. My guy Spencer Rattler got him with South Carolina. I'm really proud of what Spencer Rattler's done, man. He's a little cocky, arrogant kid, but he can play, man. And it's good to see that even though he went through everything he went with at Oklahoma with Caleb Williams taking his position and kind of taking his shine and was still able to find himself again. And he went to a place that's it's really a underrated place for football because South Carolina has produced a lot of really good pros, as we've seen from Jadeveon Clowney, J.C. Horn, all types of guys in the NFL, and they're a pretty good program. He's lifted them back up, but Clemson, I just don't like what DJ Uiagalelei does at quarterback for them. You know, I've been saying all last year, he just isn't the typical standard for Clemson quarterback after they've had Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor
They've
Lawrence,
had
yeah.
yeah, they've had some great quarterbacks come through there, man. And even before Deshaun Watson, so this kid just isn't living up to the billing. He made a bunch of money on NIL money, and I hope he put it up because I don't see him sniffing the NFL. He's too slow, man. He's slow in his decision making. He's slow in his reads. He's a slow runner, kind of lumbering type of runner when they try to run their RPOs. He doesn't hit guys really good on intermediate and short passes. He's more has to throw the ball up and hope that his outside receivers can just outmuscle or make an athletic play on the ball. So that 7.5 is a lot. I like Luke May a lot, but the problem is North Carolina's defense, man, is not good at all. Um, their defense struggles. They give up 31 points a game. They're 104th ranked at that. They're 118th against the pass. So I just see them having difficulty getting off the field, but the issue is that with the inconsistency of Clemson's offense, um, it makes what North Carolina, with their potency of their offense, can stay in the game. Luke May's going to be the #1 draft pick. He's the Trevor Lawrence type. When he comes out in 2 years, it's going to be a no doubter that he's going to be the first pick. So um, even though he's a true freshman, he's a real baller, man. So I'd lean North Carolina plus 7.5, but I won't be making a play on this one.
All right, let's talk about the Big Ten championship. Of course, Michigan coming off that huge win over Ohio State. And now they lay 16.5. Is this a letdown spot, or does a Harbaugh team just not let down?
Harbaugh's so good, man. They're coming from beating Ohio State. He understands the urgency of this game. I'd probably take Purdue in this game first half because what we've seen from Michigan is after halftime, Harbaugh makes adjustments and just smokes teams in the second half like he did the Buckeyes last week. So I don't doubt that Purdue comes out early. They have one of the better coaches in the league. I'm sure he'll have those guys ready early, but their quarterback he's not going to be able to do anything against this defense of Michigan. Aiden O'Connell, they have great receivers at Purdue as well. So, like as I said, I think they might start quick enough to make it seem like a game the first half. But I think the Michigan pulls away in the second half and ends up getting the cover, just because Harbaugh understands how important this game is, and they're just clicking right now, man. He has that team playing really good football right now. Nobody wants to get in front of Michigan. Um, I thought that J.J. McCarthy was going to be their weakness against Ohio State, but with Harbaugh's tutelage, man, he actually outplayed C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
So, and he played. And the thing great about Harbaugh, he kept so many plays tucked for the Ohio State game. They had never played that style that they played the second half on them. They aired the ball out, man, and would take a shot after shot after shot. Just a great job. So, as I said, in this one, I'd like Purdue first half, but I actually like Michigan for the game to cover.
All right, there you have it. Action-packed Saturday. That should be a lot of fun. I guess there could be worse weekends for me to be stuck in the house, right?
Right.
Let's go to Sunday. Actually, to be honest, I don't think these games are as good as Saturday's games. But we're still going to have to. I mean, they're really not, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the Browns are the Texans, and that's the first one. And of course, that one's going to get a lot of attention because it's Deshaun Watson's return to the NFL. I also think that's what makes it tough to wager on now. He didn't look very good during the preseason. And I think, unlike the NBA, the NFL, I think it's really hard to take time off and just come back firing because of the nature of the sport, because it is such a team-oriented sport, and so much of what you do is just rhythm and get with your teammates and executing the plays properly. At the same time, Texans have not been very good this year. They're really struggling in a lot of ways, especially at the quarterback position. So they look like they're going to have an opportunity to draft the new one. Might be surprised to see Bryce Young in that Texans uniform next year, and maybe that's going to be the answer for him. But right now, it's pretty bleak. But do you think they get up against their old teammate? The funny thing is they didn't feel like there was a lot of – doesn't feel like the Houston Texans dislike Deshaun Watson, right? It doesn't feel like there's a lot of acrimony there between him. Now, him and the fans, there might be, but I don't know for the teammates. Browns laying 7. To me, it seems like it's a Browns or pass spot. I don't know if I want to lay 7 on the road in a debut, though. What do you think?
I'm taking the Browns by the 7 on this game. This, as you said, one factor, the fans are going to be out there with all that hate. And what it's going to do is work against the team because the team, like you said, the guys who play with Deshaun on their team love him. Any guy who's a holdover from his time, they love him for the player he was because, nobody cares about what you were doing in your personal life. That has nothing to do with the locker room. It didn't affect the locker room. I haven't heard one player say, this guy didn't want to play with us. He left us. He turned us back. Most of them are all speaking highly of him. So, Deshaun's like him and Lamar are some of the most popular guys in the league, amongst the players. They're just good, cool dudes. So a lot of dudes like them a lot. So it's going to be where you got these fans more than anything with all of their hate for him. They're going to really excite the Browns team to play for him. And that's what I see. And then you got the worst rush defense in the whole league going against the Browns, who are top 5 and running the ball. We know Stefanski can't do anything. He can draw running plays. So I don't even think this game will be as much about Deshaun when it comes to the end of the day. It's going to be pretty easy for him because now all he has to do is make a couple plays with his athleticism. I know he's not, accustomed to the game right now. It's probably going to be a little fast for him because he's been out so long. It's going to be a little rusty, like he looked in preseason. He might be a little uncomfortable early, but he still has Amari Cooper on the outside, which is going to be a matchup advantage. The Texans are going to be missing Derek Stingley. So it's just, this is going to be a blowout. You got Allen at quarterback for Houston. They're just giving him a chance because Lovie Smith is he's feeling the doors closing in on his time. There's the coach, so he's just trying to throw a new spark out there because Davis Mills hasn't done much. They've just struggled as a whole. It's just a bad year. They're tanking, obviously, and I hope that they take um, Bryce. If they take Bryce Young, we'll see a quick turnaround to Texas. They'll be really good within the next couple of years. They don't, and they make the mistake that some of their fans are saying, like by taking Will Anderson first and moving down and getting Will Levis. We'll see. We'll see the Texans continue to struggle because Bryce Young is he's not a once in a lifetime type talent, but what that he does bring is he's very talented, but most of all, he's a grown man. He's a good leader for the locker room. He's a guy that makes his teammates believe that they're going to play hard for. And as we've seen, he's one of those type of kids who he's never out the game. He's going to keep fighting till the end. He's going to keep putting up points, and that's what the Texans really need. So I don't expect much from the Texans this season at all, man. I think that this game is a layup. I think the Browns are on them early and often. I wouldn't be surprised if the game's out of hand by halftime.
All right, let's talk about the Commanders who are heading to New York to take on the Giants. Commanders laying 1.5. I ran the numbers for this game yesterday. I had this game pretty close to even, had the Giants slightly winning. I'm surprised to see the Commanders laying points here, but I didn't get involved. I think they're both. I'm fine staying away from this game. What are your thoughts here?
The reason it's like that because Washington's won the last two games, but that was before Dayball. Um, it's time for Taylor Heineke to come back down to earth. He almost did last week against Atlanta. Um, I know Washington has some really good players around. Brian Robinson is playing really well. The running back that came back, as you guys know, after the unfortunate incident where he was, shot in a carjacking attempt in the Washington area. But I really believe that Brian Robinson will be shut down this game. Um, we know the greatness of their wide receiver McLaurin. I think that the Giants will have some schemed up for that, and just the fact that the Giants are coming off a L, I think that they'll be ready for this game. They just were beat. They had a lot of time to prepare because they played on Thanksgiving to Dallas and lost. They were embarrassed last time they were home by Detroit. I just think that Dayball has them up for this game. He lets those guys know, like, hey, we're about to blow this playoff opportunity, and I think we'll see a big game from Saquon Barkley. So I'll be on the Giants money line in this game.
All right. Yeah, I'll probably join you there. Definitely wanted to talk to you about it first. Like I said, the projections like the Giants, but it was really tough for me to see because you're talking about the trajectory of both those teams. Commanders definitely have been playing well as of late.
Yeah,
Jaguars got that win over the Ravens
yeah,
last week, right? I mean, that was nice to see. Actually, Trevor Lawrence looked like the guy that we had hoped he would be.
yeah.
Really nice last drive for them. Do you think they could build momentum when they head to Detroit to take on the Lions? They're -1 against Detroit.
I don't know, but I do know one thing. I really like Detroit's coach, man. As I said, that he's a guy that he has those guys ready to play every week, and they really try to run through a wall for him. Sometimes they don't get it done, but at least they try. Um, we'll be seeing if Panay Sewell plays. That's very important to me because he's kind of solidified that Detroit offense. He's made it where now you got to come with Jared Goff, and we know even though people don't love Jared Goff, he was a number one pick. He's lived up to that. He's been to a Super Bowl. He was kind of the guy who was the fall guy for all the little pipsqueak Sean McVay's errors. He threw everything on poor little Golf and brought in Stafford like he was going to be the savior, and they won the Super Bowl last year. But as you see, it's more problems going on in LA than just the quarterback position, and Jared Goff got an unfair deal on that. He's a good player, and I like what he's doing in Detroit, and I think I like the leadership that he's brought. In this game, I won't be on the side. I'm going on the over on this game for sure. They're going to be inside in Detroit on that fast turf in the dome. Both teams have decent offenses. Both teams kind of struggle stopping people on defense, especially Detroit. So Detroit's always in these shootouts. So I expect this to go over 51.
All right, yeah, it's leaning towards the over there as well. Neither defense is that good. The
Yeah.
New York Jets are catching 3 in Minnesota, taking on the Vikings. I actually projected that game about right,
Hmm.
but I felt like I like the Vikings here. Um, just off watching the teams. It'll be interesting though. One thing I'm concerned about, Mike White did this last year, right? Where he comes in, he plays one great game, and then he kind of shows you why he's a backup. Wonder if that
Hmm.
happens this week. And it'll be interesting to see how. I know these Jets corners are great, right? Two of the top rated corners in the NFL. But Justin Jefferson's on another level. It'll be interesting to see how Sauce and DJ Reed do against Justin Jefferson. I lean towards the Vikings, but I haven't got involved yet. What are your thoughts?
I'll be on the Jets on this one. Jets plus 3. Um, Simply because Minnesota's ineptness that on defense, they're 31st in total yards and they're 32nd against the pass. Um, I feel like Mike White is a good quarterback. Even though I don't see him as a backup. I think at least for the Jets he is. He's the best quarterback on that team, and I think that when he
That's not
plays,
saying much though. Zach Wilson's not very good.
nah, but he wasn't good at BYU. It was all hype, and kind of what we're about to see with this Will Levis fella.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you know how they do. Every year they find a guy that they like, and he has the right type of group around him to keep him in the magazines. But Mike White can play. He was, how I like Western Kentucky quarterbacks. They're coached really well. He came from Western Kentucky. He started in South Florida. I've been watching Mike White his whole career, man. 6'5". He's a pocket player. He's a Brady type quarterback. When he gets the time, he throws really accurate balls. And if you see now, Elijah Moore got involved last week, in the offense. Um, Garrett Wilson got involved in the offense. The Jets have some playmakers on the outside. It's just no one was able to get them the ball. And another thing about the Jets that people don't really recognize is how great of a coach Robert Saleh is. He's a really good coach. He really has that team prepared. He always comes in with a really good game plan. And I think this 3 shows you they're begging you to take the Vikings on this game at home -3. Everything looks lived. I'd like the Jets to cover this game and maybe even win outright. I just like the Jets are like that young team that the NFL sees every year, kind of like that Jacksonville team that year when they went to the AFC Championship with Blake Bortles. They're very young, but they don't give a damn. They're really they come to play. They have a good coach. They have a good scheme, and they're playing really fast. They're playing really strong all over the field. And youth and being in your prime is something that you can never fade when you're dealing with sports. It's a young man's game, and I just like how the Jets are flying around on defense. As long as C.J. Mosley's there, they're a really good defense, and I think that they're going to be able to put a little fear in Kirk Cousins. You know how Kirk Cousins is when he's harassed and he's blitzed and he's uncomfortable. He gets to throwing the ball up and throwing it away. And I think Sauce Gardner does trail Justin Jefferson. You're not going to stop Justin Jefferson, but I think he can maintain him enough where they can keep this game within the number. Once again, it's more about the ineptness of the Vikings defense that I'm going with the Jets on this. So I don't think the Vikings can stop anybody.
Yeah, that was, I thought, an issue. Everyone was so excited to get Zimmer out of there. I said, well, I mean, you need defense to win in the NFL. I know that and I
Zimmer
spent,
didn't Zimmer didn't like Cousins. That's what it was all about. He
yeah,
knew Cousins was I'm not gonna say the word, but he didn't like Cousins.
yeah,
Zimmer's a man's man. He didn't like Cousins. He thought Cousins was soft. So that's what that
yeah.
was all about. He wanted another quarterback. So they had to make a decision to keep Cousins because they paid him all this money or move on to get Zimmer. So they decided to keep Cousins and go with the coach with Kevin O'Connell, who's done a really well job. But like most of these guys, like we talk about, he's not a head coach. He's a play caller.
He's a play caller. And
Yeah,
Lombardi was talking about that on his pod today. And he said, we
yeah,
have a bunch of play callers that are coaching. That's why a lot of these teams aren't tough. And that's why the quality of play's gone down because they're not enforcing execution. They're
that's
drawing
right.
up these beautiful schemes, but the teams aren't able to execute, especially a lot on the defensive end. So let's see how if the Jets can take advantage of that. A coach that we love, though, Mike
Hmm.
Vrabel's heading to take on Nick Sirianni. And we have to give Nick Sirianni credit for what he's done with Philadelphia because that's a tough town and that's a tough team. Two tough teams square off. I always like taking the Titans plus the points here, but my projections really like the Eagles. What did you think?
This was going to be tough, man. You got the Titans who are um, 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 games overall. So as you said, it's very hard to fade those guys, man. Um, this one is going to be tough, man. How's the weather going to be? Let me see what the weather's looking like because the weather's going to decide a lot in this game. Because the Eagles have been running the ball and they're a lot tougher than people think that they are. Okay, so it's going to be clear. It's going to be some fair day. It's 40 degrees, no wind. Yeah, I gotta like the Eagles in this game just because I don't like Ryan Tannehill. I'm not a fan of Ryan Tannehill at all. He's when the game comes down to him having to, put some points up, he doesn't do really well. But we also have the fact that you got Vrabel coming off a loss against Cincinnati. But Ski was pointing out to me when we talked earlier last week about because he was on the Titans against Cincinnati, and his main reason was he was saying that. And as you look at the schedule, it's kind of true. The Titans haven't really beat anyone. They haven't. They haven't played anyone. Their schedule has been very weak this season. The only team that they played were Buffalo, and they blew the doors on them in the first week. They played Kansas City really well, even though they were shorthanded. But Cincinnati last week was able to beat them there in Tennessee, in Nashville. So Philly's just tough at home. Uh, Jalen Hurts is kind of taking on the role of you can pretty much count every week that he's going to do something, whether it's him beating you with his arm or his legs, but he's going to produce at the quarterback position. I like Sirianni a lot. Um, the way they've been running the ball has been really impressive. This probably is a stay away for me. I'm not going to really have a silence. I probably just enjoy this game because it could go either way. You could see the Eagles win by 7 very easily, or the Tennessee could roll in there and run Derrick Henry and end up with the upset. But I really like the advantage Philly does have at the quarterback position with Hurts over Tannehill.
I think one of the games that everybody's going to have their eyes on this weekend is the Dolphins and the Niners, with the
Yes.
idea that the Niners have showed to be this excellent defense, but they struggled when they went against Kansas City, right? Will they struggle against the Dolphins because the Dolphins feel like they have the tools, to defeat that front seven? Tua gets rid of the ball quickly, and those guys can they have the best two wide receivers in the league right now. You can argue Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but right now I'll give it to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Is the good offense going to beat the good defense here, or do you think the Niners getting done? I'm surprised that the Niners are laying so many points against Miami here. I like the Niners here on the money line. I don't know if I want to play it here against the spread, but what do you think? I mean, also the Niners had a tough injury report with Debo and McCaffrey both in and out of the lineup this week.
Yeah, but even tougher than that for Miami is if Terran Armstead doesn't play.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he doesn't play, it's going to be real problems for my guy Tua. But I do trust McDaniel to come up with a great scheme. Who knows the 49ers defense better than him? Who knows what Shanahan's trying to do better than him? He pretty much was running the offensive room for Shanahan the last couple seasons before he left. That's why he was such a high commodity, and that's why Shanahan did not want to let him go. A lot of people don't know he's been on Shanahan's hip since Houston. He's been with him a
Yeah.
long time, so he really knows what the 49ers are doing really well. So, quirky guy, you know how much we love his schematics. He's one of the best play callers and just one of the best. He's like a psychologist playing at coach too, because I love the conversations that he has with his players and stuff like that. So it's always hard for me to fade him, man. I just like him so much and I trust what he does. Shanahan, great coach as well. So this is going to be a really good game. And anytime I got teams that I think are even, I got to take the points. So if Armstead plays, I like the Dolphins with the points. I think that they're able to scheme up with enough stuff to with different things like screens, quick passes, uh, probably a lot of sweeps to those explosive receivers they have over there with Cheetah and Jalen Waddle. It's just those guys are so good, man. It's just hard to give up points with them because they can backdoor anything. As we saw by that Ravens game early in the year, that kind of set the tone for Miami's season when they
Mm-hmm.
came back and won that game down 20 in the fourth quarter. You know, they're just never out of game. And as the game goes farther and longer, as the defensive linemen kind of get tired from pass rushing, and it's a lot easier to pass block. And now, if you give Tua any type of time, his receivers are going to get open because they have an advantage on every cornerback group that they meet. Um, Dolphins have been really playing well, man. Uh, this is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a real tough one. I probably just sit back and enjoy this one and maybe wait and see if one side get the game gets out of hand a little bit, and then I'll probably jump in. But it's saying that Armstead is looking like he might play with that pectoral. They also have another lineman, Austin Jackson, who's questionable too. They have to protect him. If they can protect him, they'll be okay. I think that Miami's defense is underrated. A lot of people think that Miami, because their offense is so good, they don't pay attention to their defense, but their defense is actually pretty good, man. They got some really good cornerbacks, and they're ninth at stopping the run. So if they could slow down the 49ers run game and turn it to Jimmy G versus Tua, I like Tua. So um, I'll probably be on Miami plus 3.5. Actually, I'm going to play Miami plus 3.5. I just trust McDaniels. As long as we got Armstead in the game, I will be playing Miami plus 3.5. But if Armstead does not play, I will not make this play. So I'm just letting you guys know, those who are following the bets that I put on here, the ones that we're playing. If Armstead plays, we're taking Miami plus 3.5. If he doesn't, I'm going to stay away from it.
All right, let's because we'll do Chiefs and Bengals for Ball and Parlay. Colts and
Yeah.
Cowboys Sunday Night Football. I'm sure they thought that was going to be a good game when they scheduled it, but not so much. The Cowboys are laying
Yeah.
10.5, and I'll be
Yeah.
honest, I'm pretty much over watching the Colts. So we'll see
Jeff
how well that
Saturday,
one
Jeff
plays out.
Saturday with his data boy.
And what was it? And he didn't use any timeouts, and it's just so weird
He a
what's
high
going on
school, he
there.
a high school coach, man. He's learning as he go. He's pretty much just what I think the owner hired him just to go watch what's going on in the locker room and see what the heck was going on with that team, so he can kind of report back. I don't think um, Saturday is going to be the coach long term. He probably just be like an assistant to the owner or something as the years next year or something. I'm sure they're going to hire somebody else, but um, the Cowboys should blow the doors on this team just because we've seen Matt Ryan is having real problems at his age right now. He's looking real old and he doesn't have any blocking. And you saw how he looked last week. He put up a valiant effort when he could get time, but we've seen like this Cowboys defensive line has been monstrous. So I just don't see how they blocked them enough. Unless Dak turns over the ball, Cowboys should cover this game. But how Dak is. Dak can have one of those games where he throws 2 or 3 interceptions to the Colts defense, and now the Colts got a short field and they're in the game, and the Cowboys win but don't cover. But the Cowboys should cover this game.
All right, let's talk about your team, the Saints, taking on the Buccaneers. This game still has implications, even though both teams having disappointing seasons. Of course, the Buccaneers fell to the Browns in overtime last week. The Saints, just haven't really been able to get things going despite all the talent they have on the team. Saints usually do well against the Buccaneers, though, right? I mean, that's a trend that's gone on for a while. Now they're plus 3.5. This is Monday Night Football. What do you think here?
I will never bet my Saints as long as Andy Dalton is the quarterback. And the reason why is because we cannot get the normal Saints um, type of team as long as Andy Dalton's the quarterback. And the reason why I say that is because even if we had Teddy Bridgewater out there, even when we had Jameis Winston, the Saints do not turn the ball over offensively. That's the key, and that allows them to cover a lot of these games, lean on the defense, lean on Kamara, play smart in the Sean Payton years, even if we didn't have a quarterback. Dennis Allen, for some reason, is in love with Andy Dalton. He doesn't realize that Andy Dalton he hurts the team because now schematically you're thinking, oh, we got Dalton out here. He's a pro. So they open up the offense, let him throw the ball over the field. And he ends up making a bunch of bonehead plays that either end up where it's a 3-and-out or end up where they turn the ball over. And this puts the defense at a disadvantage. So as long as Andy Dalton's the quarterback, I'm not betting the Saints. So I'll just be watching this. But I love to see the Saints cover this game. It's just I can't trust Andy Dalton, man. I not against Tampa Bay's defense.
I think it shows some of Dennis Allen's deficiencies in running a locker room too. You can't tell me that. I know that Jameis. I don't. I'm not in there, but I
Yeah.
mean, I know that Jameis is more popular in that locker room. And
Yes.
regardless of what we think about him, and you probably like him more than me, but I know some older guys that don't like him. And I say, you know what? It don't matter though because the 20-year-old guys and the 30-year-old guys in the locker room like him, and
Yeah,
he's
because
really popular amongst his teammates.
all they've had is a good experience with him, because before he got hurt, he was playing like one of the best players in the NFL last year. He had 11
And he's
touchdowns and three
positive.
interceptions. He's
He's
positive.
supportive. He
Yeah,
doesn't have an
yeah,
ego. He works hard. He's got a
yeah,
cannon. I mean,
yeah,
I know that Allen lost the locker room by making that decision. I know there's a
yeah,
bunch of like 24-year-old dudes that they're going, we're going with this 38-year-old ginger instead
yeah,
of the kid that I relate to that has a
yeah,
cannon.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it really showed some of Dennis Allen's deficiencies as a coach to
yep.
make that decision. So,
But this goes back to him trading and him supporting and signing off on the CJ Gardner Johnson trade.
yeah,
That Gardner Johnson set out one day of practice because he said them like, "Hey guys, I'm practicing. I deserve to get paid. I'm one of the, highest
yeah.
graded at my position." They trade him, you know. And I believe that's when Allen first started losing the locker room. That's first when I saw, hey, this guy's kind of thinking he's gonna be a tyrant. Like,
Yeah.
dude, you gotta find some middle ground. It's gonna be disputes. These are adults you're dealing with. So you're
Yeah.
dealing with grown men. It's no way that the team, as you said, is in backing him with this Andy Dalton mess. It's like him and Andy Dalton against the whole locker room. So as long as it's like that, you have a divided locker room, and I can't trust them to bet.
All right. Let's give out a future bet. You like the Cincinnati Bengals. Go ahead and let everyone know why.
And I'm on the Bengals. I can't believe I caught this number. As you and I know, anyone who's a real prognosticator who watches football as we do. And I was just telling people on Twitter, like, hey guys, if you're just watching football for fun, don't get on here arguing with me about, which player can play, how a coach, because half the time you're not even paying attention to the game, man. You're drinking, you're eating your chips and your snacks, you take your bathroom breaks. Spread, you and I, we pay our bills with this for a long time. So we're a little bit more focused in on what's happening every play and making sure where we're putting our dollars when it comes to these players and these coaches. Cincinnati is the best team in the AFC besides the Bills and the Chiefs. To me, they're right in that group. It's no really differentiation between the three teams, and the reason why is because they all three have outstanding clutch quarterbacks. I'll put Joe Burrow against Josh Allen or Mahomes with the last drive to win the game. And what about you? Don't you trust Burrow in the same manner that you trust those guys? I know I do. You
I
know,
even like him more than Allen. Allen's a blowout guy, right?
exactly, exactly.
Burrow probably
Yeah.
has more come from behind wins so far in his career than Josh Allen does.
Yes, Josh, and he's finally healthy. I'm
Yeah.
seeing now the old Burrow that I knew from LSU because a lot of people don't know he's one of the most sneaky athletic guys you're going to see. And he's very cocky. He has no fear out there. He's not worried about you hitting him. He's not worried about any of that thing. He's coming to play ball, man. So I like the leadership of Burrow. I like how Zach Taylor coaches this team. He's a former quarterback himself. He does a really good job of letting their defensive coordinator do his thing. The one thing that's been consistent throughout their run the last two seasons is after the halftime, the Bengals defense is outstanding, and they continue that this year. Tough win you saw at the Titans last week. I just like how physical the Bengals have been playing. I like how their run game is looking. They're looking really rugged in the run game, man. And if you got that with a Rolls Royce at quarterback, and then you got this Ford Raptor in the backfield. They can go with Mixon, they can go with Perrine. They even got a kid named Williams that they're bringing off the bench. He's running the same way. They're running physically violent. And if you're playing like that, you have a chance against anyone. Their defense is one of the most underrated defenses in the league. They have everyone back from their Super Bowl team that they had last year on defense. They have a very underrated pass rush, very underrated linebackers, very underrated safety play. I like the Bengals because I know that the Bengals can get to the Super Bowl at the minimum, and they actually can win it. They've been catching steam, and when we get into the ball and parlay, we'll talk about a little bit about their matchup this week with Kansas City. So jump on the Bengals now, plus 900 to win the AFC. That way you can start hedging in the AFC Championship game and also take them to win a Super Bowl at plus 1800. I couldn't believe that the numbers were so high.
All right. Let's go straight into the ball and parlay. Who do you like this week? Let's start with the TCU game. 12-0. Did they get to 13-0 this weekend?
Man, TCU was a really good team. Do you know this season they're 9-2-1 against the spread? And I don't know why every week everyone thinks it's going to be the day that TCU someone beats them, and it never happens. Um, they played this team, Kansas State, early in the season. Kansas State had an 18-point lead on TCU in the first half and still didn't cover. So I just like how explosive TCU is. I like how Sonny Dykes coaches this team. You remember the execution that we saw against Baylor when they saved the season with no timeouts left and able to get the field goal kicking team in very fast, and everything was just perfect execution. I think that Sonny Dykes has been the coach of the year this season, and I think Max Duggan is a really good player at quarterback. I also like the way they run the ball. They're very physical. They've always had defense there, and similar to USC, their average margin of victory this season has been 17 points. They're only behind Michigan and Georgia in a point differentiation. I think that TCU puts on a show. They know that they're going to have to hold off Alabama, Ohio State, so they're going to put on a show for the committee. The game will be in Jerry's World in Arlington, right down the street from Fort Worth, and I think that we're going to see more TCU purple in there than Kansas State purple. And I just really like TCU to roll in this game. So latest short number, man. Later TCU minus 2.5. I expect a much bigger victory.
All right, tell everyone why you like the Bengals to beat the Chiefs this week.
Cincinnati's good at home, man. They're going to be really motivated. This is a big game. We got Jamar Chase coming back. As I said, they've been physical. They've been playing really well in all of their big games, and I just trust Joe Burrow. So give me the Bengals with the short number at home. Anytime I can get the Bengals at home with points, I don't care who I'm playing, I'm taking them. I know that we got my guy Patrick Mahomes. He's the number one player in the NFL, but he can't do it by himself. They've struggled to run the ball. I think that the Bengals make them one-dimensional. I think we see a lot of what we saw last year when the Bengals were able to beat them at home. The second half, I think Mahomes struggles as the Bengals make adjustments and take away Kelsey from them. So we're going with TCU minus 2.5. We're going with the Bengals plus 2.5 in the Ball and Parlay.
All right, I'm throwing in the Warriors tonight. They take on the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls faced a lot of travel. They just lost to the Celtics on Wednesday night, right? So they got to travel all the way across the country, and then they get into San Francisco, and they have to basically go against the two teams that made the NBA Finals. The Bulls are a team that I think are very good, that you give credit for. They beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. One thing they don't do is they struggle against the NBA's elite, and that's because they simply don't have the defensive capabilities to shut down these teams. You know, Vukovic is a great player, and if you play daily fantasy, you're going to like him, but he really struggles to protect the rim, and that puts so much pressure on their defense because they don't have the best perimeter defenders to begin with. And then the fact that they have no one behind them to kind of clean up their mistakes, you know, the way like an Embiid or like a Giannis or even a Podol out in San Antonio will do for some of these teams, really puts too much pressure on their defense, and that's the reason they implode against the NBA's best. The Warriors, they're front runners. I mean, they're almost, at this point, the Warriors and the Mavericks are the same way to me. Because they have Steph or Luka, right? And then they have a bunch of players. Now, the Warriors have Wiggins, and you know, the Mavericks don't really have a Wiggins player, but the rest of these guys are really role players. And I know Clay was great, but you know, after that injury, he hasn't been the same guy. So that you treat them like role players. They're going to play really well at home, and they're going to struggle on the road. We saw that with the Mavericks straight up to the Pistons last night, but they're going to look great at home like they did when they beat the Warriors on Tuesday. Now the Warriors back at home. Coming off a loss. I'm going to always bet the Warriors in the Chase Center, and I'm always going to fade the Bulls against the best teams. So even though this number seems like a lot, it's that way for a reason, because tough travel spot for the Bulls and just a tough matchup for them against the Warriors. So give me Steph and the Warriors. They cover tonight, and we'll start our weekend with a win.
Yes, sir. So there you go. We got the Warriors tonight on Friday. -7 spread says. I think they covered that against Chicago. And then we got the weekend set up with Saturday for you guys with TCU -2.5 is the early game for the Big 12 championship. And Sunday, the marquee game of the weekend with the Bengals +2.5 at home against Magic Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Hey, man, it's been great talking to you guys. We're sorry that we only got to you once this week. As you know, we're doing this for you guys. We don't get anything for this, but we give our time because we enjoy talking sports with you. My guy Spread playing on the injury report. He's still out here, giving it his all. I'm dealing with, a new addition to the family and those adjustments, but we still want to be here for you guys and give you these winners. Anything for the people spread before we get out of here?
No, just looking forward to another winning weekend. And once again, congratulations to you and the family.
Thank you so much, Spread, and I hope you get well soon, man. I'll be texting you all weekend, and I'm sure we'll talk again before Monday. Guys, we'll try to get back with you guys on Monday. We're kind of set everything up now. We're going to see how Spread's doing and see how the house is, but we'll for sure get to you guys at least twice next week, man. We appreciate you guys for tuning into the Wagering World. Follow my guy Spread at Spread Astaire. Follow me at 5 Star in Vegas. Fill out the 5. Best of luck to you all. We'll talk to you next week.